Welcome to Data Cloud Now, where we are dedicated to illustrating how the Data Cloud is pushing the possible forward each and every day. In this episode, we are exploring the impact the Data Cloud is having within the financial services sector. And what better area to dive into this topic than New York City, the financial capital of the world? Financial services organizations are under increasing pressure to meet rising customer expectations, satisfying changing regulatory requirements, and digitize their business models to unlock new revenue streams. It's now time to dive into the details. I was fortunate enough to sit down with Adam Hirsch, Managing Director at EY Financial Services Consulting, ESG Data Analytics. Let's jump into that combo. Let's start off with big picture. As it relates to the role of data in the financial services sector, what trends are you noticing?
Sure, absolutely, Ryan. So a couple of trends. The one thing I'm seeing firstly is that data is living in silos today. So you have systems that are on legacy platforms, they haven't been modernized in years, and you have the front office, you have different teams across the organization that are looking to say, how could I harmonize that data together? That's challenge number one and trend I'm seeing, moving to the data cloud to solve those problems. The other major trend I'm seeing is regulatory pressures. So, specific to financial services, be it sustainable finance, trade reporting, you have regulators around the world that have different rules. So how do you homogenize that data across different parts, different regions, different books and records into one platform? And then thirdly, I would say it's about insight generation. So you have people, like the people making the money at financial service firms. How do I commercialize my businesses? How do I find that needle in the haystack to find that next customer, that next investor, that next great research idea? So ultimately it's how do I leverage my data as an asset to create a marketplace so that I could essentially generate insights. And at Ernst & Young, these are top of mind for all our clients that we're working with, and certainly we're working with various data cloud solutions, data cloud providers. Snowflake we're seeing like in the forefront there, really top of mind in terms of how technology teams, business leaders, and architects are looking to sort of bring all this data together to align against those three trends.
Adam, I want to say thank you because it's great to have a baseline to now dive into, these various components deeper. How are companies, not only handling their data, but also their customers' data as well? In what areas are companies most focused on?
Sure. So when I think about customer data, so in financial services, right, that's a lot of like your investor data, right?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of, think about like personal data, PII data, right? How does that live? How do you have the right security platform around it? And what I'm seeing is a move to tools like Snowflake to essentially, kind of get a central control around that security data to allow like things like masking, right? So you want to make the data available to certain parts of the organization, but not externally. You want to make sure it's fit for purpose. If a regulator comes in, with an audit or with, just a regulatory scan, that they make sure that you're protecting your investor, your client's data. And thirdly, like when you think about like how you interact with your clients, you don't want your clients to feel uncomfortable about your data. So ultimately,
you're in it together.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're giving you like their personal information, their end investor data, and ultimately if you have the right controls, bells and whistles to really like to ensure that you have like what I would call the three lines of defense, like your first line controls, your second line, financial controls, and then internal audit, sort of looking at that, but all around the similar data ecosystem with the right data governance, the right data controls, the right data cataloging, so that you have a story that's bulletproof and that will pass muster with both your end investors and your regulators.
It's important to get a proper lay of the land before we start discussing the transition to the cloud.
So what I found with our clients working across financial services on their cloud journeys, it brings in it's not just a technology project, right? Like you're bringing in product people from the business, you're bringing in salespeople, you're bringing in cloud architects, you're bringing in technology, of course, and you're bringing in people in operations that are actually doing the blocking and tackling every day to kind of like identify the use cases and actually build fit for purpose solutions that actually bring commercial value. So it's not really about, how do I automate a reconciliation process because I want to make it better? It's how do I automate a reconciliation process to actually see where the data problems are so I could go back to the custodian or go back to the end client to actually have them fix the issue. And you can't get those insights, on these legacy platforms because, in a lot of cases, like this is what I've seen.
Right.
They're literally running on like PCs and laptops under someone's desk. They're not even running like
Listen, it seems inefficient.
Yeah, so ultimately, just like this moving to a modern architecture, moving to the ability to govern the data, homogenize the data, bring different platforms that across different regions, different products into one single view, it just harnesses the power of what these businesses could do to ultimately like increase their return on equity, decrease their operating costs, and do what they actually want to enjoy doing, like gathering assets and investing money.
I find it helpful to get a baseline on how data is playing a crucial role within the financial services sector. As many of you are aware, one area within financial services that is playing an ever-increasing role is ESG, or as defined by Investotopia, environmental, social, and governance. Criteria are a set of standards for a company's behavior used by socially conscious investors to screen potential investments. Let's hear from Adam on what he has to say on the topic.
So we worked with a number of clients on ESG integrations, and just to put it really bluntly, one client that were both the data providers and the particular asset management client were on Snowflake. We were up and running from concept to MVP in 6 weeks.
6 weeks?
6 weeks,
wow.
Where we had data flowing in, fulfilling portfolio management use cases for 5 to 6 data vendor feeds because we took advantage of the data sharing, right? We're not shoveling data back and forth and getting in this ping pong match. The other example where the client is not using Snowflake and they're using like, your traditional, SFTP, some API connectivity, they're still not live yet, because they're still working through the data and the ETL process and how do you get the data transformed in the right state, and the data is constantly changing. And you know what? They're bringing in the same data every day, whereas when you're on Snowflake and a data share, you're ultimately, like you have access to the same live data, so you're ultimately not pulling in data if it doesn't change. There's no need to do that. So it's a huge accelerator.
Okay, now let's hear from Snowflake.
I think the financial service industry is really grappling with some modern day data challenges. If you think about integrating ESG into the investment process, if you think about the reporting obligations that banks and buy sides have today, if you think about quant researchers and the need to be able to bring alternative data in to support alpha generation, the industry really, as I said, is grappling with some real big data challenges. There's a couple of specific issues that really speak to those challenges. One, the ability to resource data. Today organizations are looking to reduce that data pipeline friction and bring data together very quickly. The second is really around the ability to be able to aggregate data, join that data, both first party and third party data together, and then the ability to analyze and query data with scalable compute, and the ability to do that with no resource contention. And finally, share data. The industry has candidly been built to compete for many, many decades, and the ability to share data collaboratively and do it in a secure and governed way is very much at the heart of some of the challenges that exist in this industry.
To meet this ever-changing need of financial services companies, Snowflake released their Financial Services Data Cloud. It helps financial services organizations thrive in a data-intensive, highly regulated, and competitive environment by providing the data access and data insight needed for rapid innovation. As a strategic part of the broader Snowflake Data Cloud, the Financial Services Data Cloud delivers core platform capabilities, industry-tailored solutions from Snowflake and Snowflake partners, and critical industry data sets natively hosted in Snowflake's Data Cloud.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
We have covered a lot, and it has been so much fun exploring New York City, discussing topics that will have an impact on us for years to come. But now it's time to look towards the future.
I'd say collaboration. I think collaboration, we think about the challenges that exist today, they truly are cross-functional. The customer is changing. They're looking for a data-rich analytical experience, a faster service. And that means that really needs to inform your data strategy. What are the data assets that you're going to put in place to acquire said customer? And then what does the architecture look like? How do you put the right architecture in place to be able to support all of that data? And that requires a level of collaboration between the technologists, the data practitioners, as well as really understanding what customers want. So my advice is collaboration, right? The more we're able to collaborate as an ecosystem across an organization, the more we're able to drive this next level of transformation for our customers and our industry.
I want to thank our guests for their thoughtful insights. I'm Ryan Green with Data Cloud Now. Till next time, where we explore another topic and explore the impact the Data Cloud is having. I'll see you soon.